I'm not fully. I will go to Senator Alma Francis, and then I'm going to come back to you. Senator Alma Francis Heyliger, you're recognized.
I think we what happened is that
Okay. I think Dr. White's mic is still on, so I'm not sure if she got it. Good afternoon to my colleagues, to the testifiers, to the people of the territory. Dr. White, I want to follow up on what my colleague was talking about, because even I'm trying to understand what exactly is permanent supportive housing. I get the concept of the properties where they would transition and stay there and get the support and help them to get back into the community during a 24-month period. And then they would transition over to this permanent support residence. When you say permanent, are you saying they could live there forever? Or I'm trying to understand what exactly that.
You put on your mic, Miss White, and then start over. Miss White, your mic. It's on now. So start over, Miss White.
okay, sorry, Senator. The permanent supportive housing are a term used by HUD in which those residents will be there permanently. However, supplementary funding could be under Section 8 for those low to moderate income clients or participants.
Understand, you guys are also building the housing for them to transition. Yes. I approximately, you said you have 3 of them right now when you got some additional CBDG block grant funding to deal with this. How many more of them do you plan on building? Because if it's 3 buildings, that's 2 bedrooms, that's about 6 persons. How many more do you guys plan on building?
We have at least 2 more.
Looked into the concept of tiny homes, since this is homelessness and dealing with sometimes individual persons, to build maybe smaller individual homes, which at times could be a little bit more cost effective and can house quite a bit more people. Has that ever been a thought of your organization?
Yes, Senator.
Do you care to expound on if this is something you plan on doing in the future? Or?
Yeah, it's something we have plan on doing. However, we have to get approval because of the zoning laws.
Well,
if we're going to expand to the amount in which that the land is 1.8 acres, and if we're going to expand to accommodate, say, like a 2-story building with more accommodation, we'll definitely have to get that legislature rezoning approval. But it's something we thought about, because we will be meeting the crisis of homeless in the Virgin Islands.
I want to jump over a little bit to Anthony's gas. I wanted to ask, I know there's a $1 million lease requirement that I know they usually require for these properties, for example, but seeing that this is propane and other things, and $1 million might be a small amount. Outside of the requirement, does Antilles Gas have any kind of additional insurance, or you have gone beyond that $1 million requirement for the protection of property and surrounding areas because of the nature of the business?
Yes, thank you, Senator. We do have a $1 million liability policy, but that has a $20 million umbrella. So for any one incident, it's covered up to $21 million.
I'm happy to hear that. Do you guys have an emergency plan in case something does happen at the facility? How do you deal with that?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Could you share a little bit
Yes,
with
ma'am.
us?
And it's posted on our wall. It's required.
Could you share a little bit as to how the plan works for the public to understand? Because, we know this is a gas company, but just a little bit how it works.
Right. And we're not first responders. So, I mean, that's part of the plan is for us to do what we can in an incident, but it's really to get our employees safe. So we want to get our employees to an area. We have a designated area where they go to. So we can account for everybody if there were an incident. We want to mitigate that incident if there were to be an incident as best we can, us being the experts with propane. And of course, we will call the fire department and help them in any way that we can to resolve any problems.
Thank you so much. My time has been called. I just want to give a quick wrap up.
Go ahead.
I want to say, in regards to Hearts in Service, I do support the work that they have been doing over the years when it comes to homelessness in our community, and any assistance that we can do in order to make sure that they could continue on this journey of assisting those in need, I am in support of, as well as continue to gather information as it relates to Antilles Gas and their extended lease. Thank you so much for the time, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much, Senator Blyden. Francis Heyliger, you recognize.
Good afternoon once again to my colleagues. Good afternoon to the testifier, to the people of this territory. President Hall, I want to ask a little bit about the Green Technology Center. You spoke a lot about what services it provides. Is there any plan, or what is the goal to have some type of revenue generating project here? How does it become sustainable on its own?
Well, it certainly has been able to do more in regards to the activities that go beyond the 200,000 that is received. The hazard mitigation grant, for example, brought, I believe, somewhere close to $4 million to the territory for them to develop that plan. So that alone is an example of how their operation allows them to bring in resources to the territory. The reason, though, we still want that amount to remain is that grants come and they end, and we need to make sure that the center isn't without any funding during those periods when there isn't a grant that can cover portions of their salary.
1 minute.
So from my perspective, I would argue that
I am running out of time. Hold on. Thank you. I get the gist of it. I wanted to point more to, I do see the residual of the program bringing monies through grants, but I wanted to focus more on how they could sustain themselves. I want to ask quickly about the 260 former employees. How many that have not gotten their 8%, or you're still working on this by the end of the month? How many of those you've already been able to contact, of the 260 of them?
I would have to ask Ms. Lake King to give her estimate of how many have already given us the information.
Yes, we received close, and we continue to receive those. They're coming very quickly.
I could not hear you. You went silent. I didn't hear what you said.
I'm sorry. Yes, we received close to 100 responses.
have about a little bit over 160 to go. Okay, you also spoke about a PSA. I own a radio station and I've never heard this. So if you could forward it to my office, I would be more than happy to pay it, because I'm a firm believer. I mean, I play it for the public in the short window. As one of my colleagues said, Christmas is around the corner, and it would be nice if everyone would be able to get back their monies, this 8%, and be, made whole. So you could send it to Senator Francis Heyliger at legvi.org, and I will happily pay it so we could find the rest of these people so they could get their funding. Mr. Chair, could I ask one more question, please?
Say that again, Senator Francis Heyliger.
I ask a final question.
Yes, you may. Go ahead.
Thank you. As it relates to the 8%, I know we were talking. I want to make sure that this is it. So there will be this is all the funding, from your understanding, Dr. Hall, that everybody would be made whole when it comes to the University of the Virgin Islands.
This is it. And we have the funding for each individual. This will just make sure we have the payroll taxes that also have to be, that we are mandated by law. So our analysis demonstrates that everyone who is entitled to funds will receive them, and we have enough to do that.
Well, I'm happy to hear that. So I don't really have much more to say on this. I definitely hope that the Green Technology Center is going to, become self-sustaining at some point, because based on what you're saying, it does a lot. And also, I'm very happy to hear that everyone will continue to get what they need in regards to the restoration of the 8%. And once again, I thank the unions for doing what they needed to do to make sure this happened. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Francis Heyliger. Point of Senator Alma Francis Heyliger, you recognize.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon once again to my colleagues, to the people of the territory, to the testifier. My first question is to Lloyd of London, or it could go to the Lieutenant Governor's office. Earlier, they had shared that 60% of the insurance is being underwritten by Lloyd's of London. Could you tell me what percentage is admitted in versus the surplus line insurance? Anyone? Did they hear? Oh, go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead, I'm listening.
Currently, most of the insurance that we write is on a licensed basis. So it's probably only about 20% that's written on a surplus lines basis. And we do expect that some portion of the business is currently being written on a licensed basis will transition to surplus lines, and some of that business will transition to other insurers.
Basically, for holding 60% of the market, you're currently saying about 20% that you carry, so about 40% of the entire Virgin Islands market is regular that potentially is going to switch over once you move over to fully surplus line. And based on that, some other people might pick it up because surplus line is high risk. I want to ask a question. I'm going to say that concerns me for the record. I want to ask another question when it comes to the guarantee fund. Earlier it was stated that the insured would pay in the 5% in some capacity, but they would have no benefit to the guarantee fund at all. Could you explain to me a little bit about that, Lieutenant Governor's office, please?
Good afternoon again. The surplus line, the Virgin Islands Insurance Guarantee Fund, the lines. I'm getting a terrible feedback.
And I'm not hearing you, yes. Mr. Chair, I can't hear the testifier.
Well, one minute, let's try to get it cleared up. Let's try again. We're going to have to mute everything except her answering. So I'm going to be patient with your time, Senator Francis Heyliger. So we'll mute you and then mute you in and out. Let's try again.
Okay, the Virgin Islands Insurance Code provides the type of products that are offered that are allowed to be paid out by the Guarantee Insurance Fund. However, the Surplus Line Act itself provides that policyholders that provide that where the company becomes insolvent is not paid out through the Virgin Island Guarantee Fund. So the actual law as written is what states that surplus line surplus line policy holders would not receive compensation if in fact the company became insolvent. So that's the actual.
Jesus, basically they're paying for a service they could potentially never get. So it's wasted money based on what I'm hearing. So we would have to go in and potentially change the law for whatever aspect, because why would I be paying 5% towards something I could never utilize? That's a little
1 minute.
to me, but I'm sure we'll sort it out. I want to ask a question. What are some of the types of things that are not admissible with regular insurance that your 20% Lloyd's of London that you are underwriting currently that falls under the surplus line?
So it's large commercial risks. Typically, we write a lot of coverage for resorts and hotels, for utilities, transportation risks. So we write a lot of very high, large commercial risks where they need very specialized coverage that includes, it's negotiated individually with each insured. It's not a standard policy like a homeowner's policy that you're used to seeing, and your policy is going to be very similar to your neighbor's policy. The types of policies that we're expert in writing are what we call manuscripts. So they're written specifically for that particular risk. And those are the types of coverages that are basis.
Okay, thank you. You also made a statement in regards to those that might be utilizing and using the surplus line insurance, that Lloyd's of London has their own guarantee fund, basically something sort of like it. What is the guarantee that it would be activated when it comes to this territory? Because you may have it, but is there an obligation by law to utilize it? Because it could be like, you know what, this is too much damage here and we just don't want to do it. What kind of guarantee would the individuals in this territory have that your guarantee insurance would kick in?
So I would say that your guarantee is based on commercial, our reputation. We have never had a claim from any territory in which we write throughout the world that has not been paid when there was one of our members that became insolvent. So we've always paid every claim. And also our regulator in the United Kingdom, which is the Prudential Regulatory Authority, they would not allow us to not pay a claim or to choose and say, because we don't like this territory, we're not going to pay claims there. That would not be permissible by our domestic regulator, who works very closely with the U.S. regulators, including the NAIC, and the division, if this kind of issue came up, would be working very closely with our UK regulator as well.
Time.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a final
Go ahead,
question?
Senator. Go ahead, Senator. Go ahead.
Thank you. One of the things you just noted is you spoke about several high-risk businesses. Now, if you are dealing with 60% of the market, 20% is surplus, about 40%. What if for some reason that when people recognize that everything is being pushed over to high risk, that 40% dwindles down to 10%, because they might be able, all these insurance companies that the Lieutenant Governor's office stepped up to the plate, and it now dwindles down to 10%. So now you're only dealing with 30% of the market. What percentage do you think would cause you guys to still stay in the territory? Because what I'm hearing here is a lot of high risk costs for the people in the territory, but I'm trying to figure out what you're willing to risk in order to stay here.
Well, first, what I would say, I wouldn't characterize it as high risk. I think what the surplus lines market is it's a backstop. It's there to provide capacity and coverage when that capacity or coverage isn't available from the licensed insurers. In a lot of cases, I think that there will be capacity available. And so, yes, the percentage of market share that Lloyd's has in the USVI is probably going to drop a little bit. But we are very committed to staying in the USVI. There is a lot of business that we write in the USVI that our underwriters would like to continue to write and that we think is appropriate to transition to the surplus lines market. So I don't think you're going to see a major difference in our market share, a little bit of a change maybe, but I don't think it's going to be, a situation where we drop so much that we don't want to participate in the USVI. It's a market that's very important to our underwriters. They have long-standing relationships with the local brokers down there, and that business is going to continue to be of interest to them.
So you basically don't know what percentage it might be able to go to that would still keep you here in the market.
What I can say is we don't have any plans to leave the market, and I don't foresee any situation where we would.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the additional time.
Thank you so much, Senator Francis Heyliger.